Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of SOCAST's webinars, How to Analyze and Grow Key Digital Metrics at Your Radio Stations. Again, I am Eric Eisen, Director of Sales and Marketing here at SOCAST, and we are very happy to have you all attend today's webinar with us. As always, you can ask, we are answering live questions, so if you could please feel free to type in any questions you want. That would be great into the sidebar. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Today we are going to cover a few things with you, focusing on metrics and data and analysis that will help you and your radio stations analyze and evaluate how you're doing with your website metrics, your mobile app metrics, your streaming metrics, amongst others. We're going to discuss some good benchmarks for those key performance indicators or metrics. I'll flip-flop between the two of those, but ultimately what should you be looking for and what should your targets be. And we'll also focus on some tricks to optimize them, as well as some tools of the trades on how you can do that. So without further ado, let's get right into why we've decided to focus on this topic today and why it is important to track key metrics in digital. We're going to explain this first sort of by going backwards a little bit. At the end of the day, one of the main purposes of your digital efforts is to grow your online presence and drive digital revenue. In order to do these things, you need to engage your audiences in digital. There are a variety of ways to do that, obviously. You can do this through blogs and news content, social media, podcasting and video. Those are just a few of the ways you can interact with your audience through your radio stations in digital. However, to know which one of these initiatives is working, you really need to be looking at the numbers, and that's what's so important. What numbers are so important? How do we measure and optimize them? That's really what we're going to focus on here today. The first one we're going to look at is website metrics. To get us started, I wanted to take some notes from this quote here, that websites promote you 24/7, and certainly no employee can do that. In today's day and age, your website is an integral destination for your audience to access your stream, learn about the artists you're playing, learn more about your on-air talent, and of course interact with your local information and news content. It is really the website is really your central hub to form that local bond with your local audience. And as such, you need to make sure you're maximizing your web presence to interact with your audiences in digital. We would just like to note that the list of metrics we are presenting today is certainly not exhaustive. There may be other metrics that you want to focus on, such as submission rates for contest pages. However, the main ones, we're going to be focusing on some main ones today. And please feel free to type in on the sidebar just so we can make sure that we can get back to you if there are certain ones we don't cover that you'd like to learn more about in follow-up webinars and in follow-up communications. We're going to get a little bit granular into these metrics and segmenting them by things like campaign and specific blog posts to see which initiatives are best. Simply put, the number of page views on your website is the total number of pages that visitors on your website look at. This number is important because it helps to drive the impressions, which ladder up ultimately to digital revenue. Taking a look at page view benchmarks and a note about benchmarks in general, we consider these good numbers here on this slide to aim for each metric we're looking at today. And these are based upon what some of our successful SOCAST clients are achieving. However, there's a lot of variance between different radio stations, even within large and small markets. We just want to give you an idea of what a good number is to aim for. The most important thing for you to do is improve from wherever you are currently. For monthly page views, the benchmarks are as follows. If you're in a small market, about 10,000 monthly page views is considered strong. If you're in a medium-sized market, about 50,000 page views is a good benchmark. And if you're in a large market, you should certainly be aiming for north of 100,000 page views per month. With that being said, it also depends on the setup of your site and the format. Obviously, news and talk sites tend to generate a little bit higher than these, but ultimately these are pretty good benchmarks to get started with. There are definitely some differences, as I mentioned, by format, and these are generally good benchmarks for the music sites. A news site can do 3 to 5 times these numbers, and if you are doing a lot of blogs or your own original digital content, it's likely that your page views will be, or not doing your own digital content, your page views will be much lower than these numbers. In terms of optimizing these numbers, it is important to host all your content on your website. For instance, with your station's video content, host it on your website so that people will be there when viewing your videos. Make sure you optimize your website and blog posts for SEO. We've linked here to a checklist, and we'll be sending out this presentation after the webinar for SEO so that you can check, so that you can use it like a plugin like Yoast or WordPress to make sure you are checking off all the boxes on SEO. On-air callouts are also one of the more popular ways to drive traffic to your websites. And according to our 2017 Digital Trends in Radio survey, over 80% of broadcasters stated that this was a quote-unquote very important traffic driver for their websites. Have your DJs tell your listeners that they can check back on your website for more of their favorite content like videos, podcasts, previously played songs, contests, etc. Another way to increase page views is to improve your local social media distribution. Be sure you post all of your web content to your station's social channels. Many SOCAST clients get more than 40% of their web traffic from social media by doing this. Average session duration is another important metric. This will tell you on average how long people stay on your website during each visit, and it's a good indicator of how engaged people are with your content on your website. This metric is important because higher time on site leads to greater likelihood to click ads and impress upon those ads. For a benchmark on this metric, we generally suggest aiming for an average session duration of about 2 minutes. If you're doing north of that, you're doing well. In order to improve this number, you need to get your audience to engage more with your content. One great way to do this is to use richer forms of content, such as video. Of course, if you host a video on your website that is able to capture your audience's attention, you will be able to keep them on your website for a longer period of time. Another tactic you can use is to embed your station's social media feeds on your website. This will give you more content that refreshes regularly that your audience can interact with on your homepage, constantly refreshing that page. It is also important to ensure that your website design and usability is up to snuff. Make it easy for your visitor to navigate to your content by doing things like including a search bar for your news pages. Make sure you're highlighting your news and local content because that's really why people are ultimately coming to your site. Finally, ensure that you have a mobile, responsive, enabled website. We can't express how important this is enough. This will help increase the amount of time mobile users spend on your website, which will increase your overall average session duration. Bounce rate is another web metric that we're going to look at in detail today. This is a percentage of users who navigate away after only viewing one page on your website. For example, if someone comes to your homepage but then closes their browser window without viewing any other pages, that would be considered a quote-unquote bounce. However, if they clicked on your website and then clicked on a news headline to learn more and visited that page, that would not constitute as a bounce until they left your site. A high bounce rate will lead to fewer page views, lower session durations. High bounce rates themselves are generally caused by poor user experience on your website. In terms of a benchmark, according to SOCAST client data, your website should be aiming for a bounce rate under 60%. To improve this metric, you need to do things that improve the website experience for your visitors. First, keep your website load time reasonable. That's obviously important. People have to wait. They'll leave quickly. People will leave your website if it's taking too long to load. So consider reducing the number of images and videos on your website if you find that the assets are taking too long. Second, improve your website's general design and usability. Similar to how this will help increase time on site, this will also help to decrease your bounce rate. Users are frustrated and unable to find what they want on the website are more likely to bounce. Third, don't use misleading headlines for your blog content and social media. If someone clicks on a headline and they find out that it's clickbait, they are much more likely to leave your site quickly because of the quality of that. Another good way to reduce bounce rates is to make sure that you have trending or highly shared, engaging content always on front and center on your site. So making sure that you have other stories at the bottom of a story, a news story on your site, will give other people other opportunities to explore other content that you may have included. And finally, include other relevant content on your website for blog pages. For example, if there is an article about Ryan Reynolds on your blog page, be sure to include other links featuring Ryan Reynolds that are hosted on your website. This will make people more likely to visit a second page and less likely to leave the site. Next, we're going to look at monthly streaming tune-ins. Online streaming is becoming more and more important for your radio stations. According to Statista, 65.9 million Americans stream radio online every month, tuning in for an average of 14 hours and 39 minutes every week. By market size, you should be aiming for the following numbers of monthly tune-ins. About 5,000 tune-ins per month for small markets, 10,000 for medium-sized markets, and 25,000 for large markets. Here are some things that you can do to improve these numbers. First, ensure that the Listen Live button is prominently displayed on your station's website. Streaming is often the main reason people come to your website, so you want to make sure your Listen Live Now call to action is clearly visible and accessible so that people can get to it when they want. You can also have your DJs encourage people to listen to your stream online. For example, have them remind listeners that they can tune in on your website or mobile app to hear a cue to call for a contest during the day when they are likely not in the car. One creative way that can drive traffic to your website's player is to hold a contest that requires people to visit it. Let me give you an example of this. One of our clients, Cool 1015 in Calgary, held a contest called Name That Song. For this contest, the station took the song listings off the website, and contestants had to enter the song names on a form on the web player in order to enter. And this contest helped the station to see a sustained lift in its online streaming metrics. We'd be happy to share more information if you'd like. Just reach out to us after the webinar. All right, now we're going to take a look at social media and some of the metrics you should be looking at in this channel and how to optimize them. First off, as we mentioned previously, many SoCast clients get more than 40% of their web traffic from social media. It is definitely a huge opportunity for you to drive more web traffic to your websites using social media. It is a critical amplifier for you to promote your content and drive traffic back to your hub, which is your website. The first social metric we're going to take a look at is page followers. The term followers may have a slightly different name on the different social networks, page likes on social media, followers on Twitter, etc. However, the effect is largely the same, and this metric is the basis of all your efforts in social media that will allow you to get your content in front of more people. This metric is important because having more followers will help you reach more people with your content on social media. Benchmarks certainly vary by market for this one. Larger market brands will generally have a bigger fan base that they can extend into social. To give you some sort of idea by market size, for small markets, you should aim for about 10,000 Facebook and 3,000 Twitter followers. Medium-sized markets, you should aim for about 50,000 Facebook and 15,000 Twitter followers. And for large market, you should aim for over 200,000 Facebook and 60,000 Twitter followers. Again, these numbers vary by station, even within market size segments, and there are obviously outliers. But stations that got started earlier with social media presences have a leg up on others. To grow these numbers, here are a few creative things you can do. The first thing is to hold contests that require entry via social media. For example, SoCast's client, The Game in Nashville, ran a Rock the Gold at Work contest where listeners had to upload photos of the station's Twitter account on the station's Twitter account of themselves wearing a Nashville Predators jersey to work to win hockey tickets. You can also run social media exclusive content to drive traffic to these on-air mentions. For instance, 102.1 The Edge, a rock station in Toronto, runs a beer break series every Friday at 5 p.m. where they bring in beer experts to sample local microbrews. The broadcast is done exclusively via Facebook Live and is promoted on the air as well. Your email is another source of potential social media followers. Run a campaign and provide your email database members with an incentive to follow you on social media, such as an exclusive content or contest entries. Other ways to increase your followers include adding prominent social follow buttons to your website, encouraging visitors to follow you for more great content, like whatever article you are sharing. On the engagement side with social media, you can measure it in likes, shares, comments, and things like that. Without strong engagement, it doesn't matter how many people follow you on social media. It's better to have 1,000 followers who consistently engage with you than 10,000 who barely do so at all. To measure engagement, we look at the number of interactions per post per 1,000 followers on your social media page. This is an important metric because it will help drive click-throughs to your website and increase the reach of your content. Benchmarks for this metric vary between social metrics. Here are some benchmarks for interactions per post per 1,000 followers for some of the major social networks. For Facebook, you should aim for 15 interactions per post per 1,000 followers, 5 on Twitter, and 40 on Instagram. So if your radio station has 10,000 followers on each of these social networks listed here, you should see 150 interactions on Facebook, 50 on Twitter, and 400 on Instagram for an average post. To increase engagement on your social channels, use richer content again. Case in point, Facebook posts with photos see 83% more engagement, and tweets with photos see 35% more retweets than those without. Conduct posts that specifically encourage your audience to interact with your social. For instance, ask a question on your Facebook page. Which band puts on the best live show? To spark debate and encourage your listeners to comment on a subject that they are passionate about. Excuse me. You should also be interacting with your followers on social media. Respond to their comments to increase the overall flow of conversation. This is especially important during Facebook Live broadcasts. Another trick is to tie social media in with your on-air programming. For example, if you are about to play a song about a particular artist, post an article about them to your Facebook page right before going into the song, and have your DJs on air encourage people to comment on the article right as the DJ goes into that song. Social referrals is another and the final metric that we want to talk about in the section on social. These are visits to your website that come through your social media channels. This is the most important output of your social media efforts. After all, your website is the primary place that you will drive digital revenue, and social referrals will help drive more ad impressions. As we mentioned before, many clients get more than 40% of their website traffic from social media. We consider this a strong benchmark for your stations to aim for as well. Keep in mind that this is an overall benchmark. Certain website types, like news sites, will see higher social referral numbers, with many getting greater than 60% of their traffic from social media. To optimize this metric, you need to make sure all of your social posts link back to your website. Also, be sure to post all your news stories in your social channels and encourage people to click back to your websites and learn more. It's also a good idea to maintain a regular posting schedule so that your audience knows when they can expect to see content from your social channels. For instance, have each of your DJs post about once per hour during their show with content they are talking about on air to help drive more social content. Finally, be sure you are always using enticing headlines to get people to click. Ensure that the headline piques your listeners' curiosity so that they are inclined to go back to your website and learn more. If nothing else, your social post should also include a link to your Listen Live player where possible. Next section we're going to look at is the key metrics when looking and analyzing your mobile app. According to a study by BIA Kelsey, mobile advertising is projected to grow 18.7% annually until the end of 2021. With this in mind, you need to make sure that you are taking advantage of the opportunities to engage your audience in mobile and definitely monetize this channel. Monthly downloads are an important top-level metric that you need to be driving for your mobile app to continue to give new life to it. After all, app users churn and do not stay around forever, so you need to be consistently monitoring and growing this number. For benchmarks, your monthly app downloads should be about 200 a month in a small market, 400 a month in a medium market, and greater than 1,000 per month in a large market. There are several things you can do to improve these numbers. First, be sure to optimize your apps for the App Store. We've left the link in the deck with a guide on how to do that. And again, we'll be sending this presentation out to all of you after the webinar. Be sure to place mobile app links on your website and social media pages. You can even do a native ad on your website that features your branding and says something like, download our app to get our morning show on the go. Promote app exclusive content like contests. For instance, SoCast's client 104.9 The Wolf had a wolf howl contest where listeners had to upload their best wolf howl via the mobile app to win a trip to see Metallica. This doubled their monthly app users for that specific month. Another strategy you can use is an in-app referrals to incentivize users to invite their friends. Put a button on your app's contest page that provides an extra contest entry for every referral that someone sends out. Another idea is if when people visit your mobile website, you can also, if you have the proper provider like SoCast, you can also have an ad pop up when people access your mobile website to encourage them to actually download the mobile app version instead of using your mobile web. So that's another great way to encourage monthly downloads. Your retention rate is the percentage of people who stay on your app and is generally measured on a monthly basis. This metric is important because it's not enough to just acquire new users. You also have to keep your existing users around. Improving your retention rate will help to drive additional mobile tune-ins, engagement, and of course, revenue. Your retention rate is defined by the percentage of people who return to use your app each month. This metric is generally measured in monthly cohorts. In terms of benchmark, you should aim for about 500 monthly users at a small market station, 1,000 at a medium-sized market station, and 4,000 in a large market station, if not larger. In terms of monthly retention, you should aim to retain 40% of your users after 1 month and 20% of your users by 3 months. For example, if you add 1,000 new users to your mobile app in January, you should aim to have 400 of these users still using the app in February and 200 of these same people still using the app actively in April. App retention is generally driven by feature sets, usability, and stickiness. There are several things that you can get your users to do to have them stick around. Allow your mobile users to subscribe to push notifications to get them to come back to the app. You can do this for things like news updates, sports scores, cues to listen, new contests, concert announcements, breaking alert, weather alerts, and anything that has to do with their favorite shows. Having strong usability and user interfaces will also greatly help your retention rates, as users are much more likely to come back to an app that is easy to use versus one that is not. Having other sticky features that give people reason to use your mobile app on a consistent and regular basis will help your monthly retention. Things like an alarm clock on your mobile app and the ability to text in song requests, or like we said earlier, howl at the moon to win concert tickets via your app will give people a reason to come back and continue using it. Mobile tune-ins are the number of people who listen to your radio station stream via their mobile devices, and this is your app's equivalent to on-air listeners. With people spending more and more time on their smartphones, it is clearly a big opportunity for radio. More mobile tune-ins will lead to more audio pre-roll impressions for your radio station. For benchmarks by market size, you should aim for about 10,000 per month in a small market, 30,000 in a medium-sized market, and more than 100,000 in a large market. To increase your mobile tune-ins, you need to get your listeners into the habit of using your station's app for listening. Of course, the previous things that were mentioned, driving additional app downloads and improving app experience with better features and usability, will help drive more tune-ins. Another great way to encourage mobile tune-ins is to enable listening appointments in your app so that people tune in for a particular show or live sports coverage broadcast. Additionally, ensure that your Listen Live button is prominently displayed on your app so that your stream is easily accessible and people do not get lost when they're searching for it. According to Burrell Associates, digital revenue is projected to grow 22% in the year of 2017, with traditional spot revenues remaining mostly flat. It is clear that digital is a path to revenue growth for the radio industry. The first thing we want to talk about here is total digital revenue itself. And digital revenue as a percentage of your total revenue is a great way to measure it. Digital revenue can come from several sources such as banner ads, mobile ads, sponsored social media posts, and many more. you want to measure digital revenue separately from other sources so that you can monitor the effectiveness of your digital sales efforts. Of course, this is an important metric because it is the culmination of all your digital efforts in most cases. As we mentioned, digital revenue is increasingly important to radio. Measuring this metric is also important so that you can monitor the effectiveness of all your digital efforts. In terms of benchmarks, according to our 2017 Digital Trends in Radio survey, nearly 1/4 of broadcasters get 6% or more of their revenue from digital. We consider this to be a strong starting benchmark for stations to aim for as well. In order to achieve this, first, be sure to sell digital separately from your on-air spots. You can definitely do bundles where an advertiser would get both digital and on-air ads. Just make sure that you're not throwing in the digital component completely for free because it does have value. Be sure to also enable more types of digital inventory on your digital properties. Some of the most popular forms of digital inventory for radio include display ads, audio and video pre-roll ads, as well as mobile ads to make sure you're maximizing your opportunities here. Next, create a digital rate card to help your ad partners see exactly what they're getting from the digital ads. Your rate card should include each type of digital inventory as well as the pricing, expected impressions, and expected click-through rates associated with each. Additionally, you want to hold regular digital sales training to ensure that your salespeople are up to speed on every new type of digital inventory and how to present it to your radio partners in an enticing way. And finally, it's always great to use a CRM software that will allow you to track your deals in your pipeline and organize your sales activity. This will help make your sales process far more efficient. You also want to track the number of ad impressions that you are serving to your ad partners per month. This is defined by the number of ads that your visitors see and is a function of page views and the number of ad units you have on each page. The metric is important because it is what your ad partners are ultimately paying for. You need to monitor and grow this number so that you can provide them with that additional value. In our final section of the webinar, we're going to be looking at the tools, the analytics tools and reporting tools that you have to help you measure and monitor these metrics. Like our old friend Lord Kelvin told us, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we're going to look at some of the tools and techniques that we suggest you use to analyze your digital performance. The first one is Google Analytics. And Google Analytics is the granddaddy of web analytics tools and is completely free to use. So we suggest using this for your web metrics. It's a great tool because it allows you to look at many different metrics such as visitors, page view, time on site, and bounce rate, all things we've covered here today. It also lets you look at these metrics by channel, so whether it's coming in from mobile or web, and even at a campaign level, so you can get very granular with your metrics and see what initiatives are really working for your stations in digital. First, you'll want to set up an account and create separate properties for each of your stations. Next, you'll want to set up a tracking code. This is basically a snippet of code that you need to copy and paste into your website code to ensure Google Analytics is able to capture those events on your website. You may also want to set up tracking for any relevant events. For instance, on your contest pages, you may have a submit button. You'll want to track how many of your visitors actually hit that button. There is a separate piece of code that you need for this to get it set up. We've included some links and instructions about how to set up this tracking in the slides, which we will provide again after the webinar. And this will help you get set up at your stations. And once you have everything in place, using Google Analytics to monitor your key website metrics on a monthly basis is a great way so you can look at what initiatives are working in digital and continue to grow. Another very important tool to have is Google DFP, and there are other ad servers out there that will provide you similar type of metrics and analytics. With the Google DFP dashboard, you'll be able to get key metrics like ad impressions, revenue, click-through rate, and ultimately yield. You can also use filters to surface your data quickly, look at it by client or campaign, and you can also set up regular reports in Google DFP to monitor your key ad metrics and use these as part of your monthly reporting for both your sales team and for your ad partners. Your streaming provider With them, you will need to check off a few boxes to ensure that they provide you with the right information to monitor the performance of your live stream. First, ensure that they have a dashboard that includes key streaming metrics. Second, look at the access on your stream. What channels are online tune-ins coming from? Is it mobile? Is it web? Is it now voice related? Third, double down on the channels that work best for your stations. For instance, if you notice that you get a lot of online tune-ins from Facebook, ramp up your efforts in that channel to drive even more people to your live streams. The end result of these efforts is that you will be able to grow your audio pre-roll impressions with more online tune-ins, constantly monitor and test new initiatives to see what works for you and how you can grow it further. For a streaming provider, we recommend working with a company like LeanStream, who provides all of these features, and SoCast is integrated with LeanStream, so all SoCast users are able to properly monitor and grow their streaming metrics. Social media analytics are another important thing, as we've discussed. To look at your social media metrics, you need to use your social network analytic dashboards to extract key metrics. Ideally, you can use a solution like SoCast Social Metrics to look at performance by post and by DJ. This is helpful so you can look at which posts are the most successful in driving click-throughs back to your website, who is posting them, and how successful are they at driving traffic back. You should also set up campaign tracking where applicable. For instance, if you're running a social media campaign for a particular contest, classify all your social media posts related to that campaign so that you can do a postmortem of what worked to promote that contest once the campaign has completed. Finally, you can use a tool like Clout to monitor your brand's influence relative to your competitors. Clout is basically an algorithm that looks at the amount of content you post and the number of interactions that you get to provide you with some sort of a score. You can use this tool to help monitor the impact of your social media efforts and measure yourself relative to your competitors over time. We've added a link here so you can create an account for your station. I would also like to talk about establishing monthly reporting metrics for each of your radio stations. Create an aggregate dashboard containing all the metrics to share with your team. This should contain all high-level metrics that are important to your radio stations and digital. These should include website visits, page views, tune-ins, digital revenues, as well as mobile app downloads and users. Your dashboard should also measure your numbers relative to previous months so you can ascertain your progress in digital. Hold a monthly meeting with key stakeholders at your station to review this dashboard, or include it as part of one of your weekly digital meetings. The group at this meeting should include at least your promotions director, your digital and interactive manager, any social media people working on your station, and your on-air talent. Once you've reviewed these numbers, have your team sit down, determine what's working, and brainstorm new tactics and strategies to improve your current results in digital. Work on implementing these new tactics so that you can see even better results the next time you sit down. Finally, rinse and repeat. Growing in digital is an iterative process that requires you to test new things continuously to determine what works at your radio stations and what doesn't. So before we conclude today, I wanted to give you a few things to take away to consider when executing on your digital initiative. First, always bear in mind that components of digital are interconnected. Certain aspects of digital can be used to promote others. Improvements in some areas can help other digital metrics. For instance, increased activity in social media will lead to increased website activity. It's also important to get granular with your digital data. Today we just gave you the high-level metrics, but it's important to look at the metrics by different segments to be able to determine which initiatives are working best at your stations. For instance, you will want to look at your website visits by referral source and your social metrics by DJ to see which is the most effective and what needs to be improved. You need to be consistent with your efforts in digital. Building things like a social media presence and blog readership takes time, and you will have to devote consistent efforts to these activities for them to bear fruit. We also want to point out that you should double down on what works. If you get massive engagement on Instagram, invest more of your resources in that channel. If you find that publishing more blog posts drives more and more traffic to your website, continue to do just that. Also, don't feel obligated to invest in every single channel. For instance, if you find that you get particularly low engagement on Twitter and your initiatives are not yielding any success there, definitely scale back. Finally, you'll want to focus on building your digital presence first and then monetizing that. In order to grow your digital revenue, you need to provide value to advertising partners by having good traffic on your digital property. Revenue is really the next step, so it's important to build a strong digital presence first. This will make selling digital inventory a lot easier later. Before we go, we wanted to thank everybody and wish everybody a happy holidays. And we do have a very special SoCast year-end offer that we are offering today. If you schedule a demo with SoCast for either our web content management system or our mobile app, you will receive, and you do that before December 31st, and then you end up signing up, we will get you a free, include a free Alexa skill voice app with the purchase of each CMS license or mobile app license. As a reminder, we at SoCast are always here to help, and we have a platform that provides radio stations with all of the tools they need to increase digital revenue and engagement. And if you'd like to learn more about how we can work together, please do not hesitate to reach out to us via requested demo at www.socastdigital.com. You can find the requested demo button there or talk to a specialist, and we'd be happy to connect with you to do an assessment of your websites or mobile apps and help you try to improve them. As a closeout, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for attending our webinar today. Keep in mind that we will be providing the webinar recording as well as the slides in the next few days, so bear with us. We will definitely be sending those out. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to email me at eric@socastdigital.com. That's Eric with a C at socastdigital.com. Or again, visit us at socastdigital.com, our website, for more information. With that, I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very Happy New Year. Hopefully it will be as prosperous as 2017 was for us, and we look forward to speaking to all of you in 2018. Thanks again for attending today's webinar, and we'll definitely be in touch. Take care for now.